In this demonstration, we're going to show you how BCP can be used in order to support an S&OP process. What you're looking at is a typical view that a demand planner may look at for the products that they're responsible for across different regions, across different brands, and different items. And one of the main issues that faces most demand planners is how do you collect information from multiple people while they're all working at the same time on the same data? Well, BCP has a unique capability in what we call access control, such that multiple users can work on the same data at the same time, having the database consolidate the information, but having users work inside of spreadsheets on their desktop. One of the ways we do that is we support access control. And access control means you can take any one of the dimensions of the business and say, for example, that I want the sales planner for the region APAC to only see the rows they're supposed to work on. And yet as a demand planner, I want to be able to see everything that I'm responsible for. And this is handled within an Excel view, which we call an access control view, where it says who are the different users that are working on the system. And for a given person working in the system, for example, a sales planner, I want them only to see the region APAC when they log in with the system, whereas as demand planner, I want to be able to see all this information. Now this forecast information can roll up across multiple products. This information then gets combined with revenue data, and the revenue data is driven in addition to the forecast information, but also logistics costs in order to generate manufacturing information and also the manufacturing plan, and ultimately driving how much inventory and how much production should be done at different areas. While this is also combined with different reports showing exactly what different products are made in different areas and what it's actually costing the business. So let's start off by doing a forecast scenario where we want to be able to collect information from the APAC planner and make a contribution to this plan. Now the way BCP works is everyone works inside, as I had mentioned, a template that is specific to their role. So if I go back now and I say, well, let's go grab the master template that we would take, place on a SharePoint drive or some other location so people can access it. And the users would come in and say, okay, I want to be able to access the system. It goes through a check to see is everything that I need on my computer set up correctly. But then they go in and they log in using a specific login role. Now what happens here is you can see that the plan information or the report information is already loaded in here, but there's no other data inside this workbook. So the system's now going out to the database. It's getting all the information that's associated with this particular S&OP process and bringing it into this role-based view for each one of the different users. So in this particular case, I'm grabbing the forecast information along with the other supporting information, but I'm going to be getting only the data that's specific to the region for Sales APAC, whereas the demand planner was seeing everything. So now you can see the system building out the different views. And as I go back and I take a look at my forecast sheet, now this is the same forecast data environment that I was looking at before as the demand planner, but now you can see that I only see information for APAC. I don't see anything else. So this is one of the unique scalability capabilities or scaling capabilities of BCP, is the ability to only have the regions that you're responsible for showing up when you're working with the data. But then the next thing is how do you share information between users? And we do that using submit and refresh. So I can come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to make a plan change to this. I'm going to make this one be 2000. I'll go ahead and make this an adjustment, and I'll say my update, for example. Now, as I'm working offline. It's not until I actually say I want to submit this data that information gets pushed back to the server. So you're able to have a lot of people work concurrently at the same time on the same planning environment. But then when I say submit, I say when I type in my comments, my updates, and then this pushes this change back to the database. And as soon as this change is pushed back to the database, then everyone else who's involved in the process who sees this same data is going to be able to see this update. So let me switch back over now and go back to the demand planner view that I was looking at before. And you may wonder, well, how do I know that something changed? Of course, you can set it up so that you can send out notifications that people have made modifications. You can have notifications based on going over different thresholds. Or in its most basic case, you simply go in as an individual user and you say, I want to see what's changed. So go query the database and go find all the changes that I don't have inside my workbook on given worksheets and show me those changes. So now as I come in here and I say, well, show me those changes, then I see right here that the updates were done. And I can see the data value changed from 1,000 to 2,000 for both of these. At any time I can go in and I can click on an individual cell and say, I want to see how is this data value changed. And you can look at it over any period of time. So for example, let's take a look at the past month of the data for this particular forecast information. And you can see here that I've just done an individual change today, but most recently there was some cleanup work that I was done as I set this up. But the point being that you're able to look back at any point in the history of the forecast data and see who has changed what, which is very important for being able to take a look at, for example, the forecast preview information to be able to see, how are my different brands compared against quotas over different periods of time, and what is the basic forecasting information that I may want to be able to look at for across different dimensions for forecast types and regions and everything else. But across the business, it's important that this information can be shared. And so what I'm going to do within the role of this demand planner is I'm going to take a look at the finance view, because the finance view tells me the health of the business. And as I look at the finance view, I can see that there's some issues with margin as we get into the 5th month of our planning cycle. So how do we go about addressing that? Well, you have to take a look at different things that are impacting exactly what it costs in order to create one of these products or support building the product. Certainly there's logistics information across different territories related to, in this case, we're looking at APAC. But there's also information that's related to, if I go back and say my manufacturing information, and I say, you know what, I'm working now with APAC, so let me take a look at exactly what's going on with APAC. And I say, okay, well, as I look at these different products, and now the one I'm going to look at specifically is brand A, I can see that as I say, how is this going to be built across different territories or different areas? What are my different costs? And I can see that for brand A, if I do manufacturing in-house, it's only 40 cents. If I do manufacturing at different manufacturing operators, their different unit costs per item is more expensive. So this tells me as a capacity planner that I can make adjustments to my plan such that if I reallocate some of the demand across these different factories, then I'm able to make adjustments to my plan and impact the overall margin for this particular brand A in this region APAC for this particular area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, okay, well, let me make some modifications to my manufacturing plan. And as I look at my manufacturing plan, I say, okay, well, I need to make some adjustments to, month 5, as we talked about. And if I go up and say, well, let me make some adjustments here and change this from 7,000 to 5,000. And then I'm going to go ahead and make some changes here from 4,000 to 4,500. So effectively what I've done is I've adjusted some demand on my external manufacturing operation location to my in-house location. Now, of course, I still have to make some modifications in terms of how do I make adjustments to my total ending inventory. But the point is that I'm making these changes. I'm able to look at what's happening across different parts of the business in terms of what's my forecast, how's my manufacturing plan going in terms of the amount of inventory that I have in different areas, and then ultimately what's happening to my margin at a particular location. And as you can see, by making those changes within the manufacturing environment, I've been able to affect positively my margin for this particular brand for this particular month and impact and drive the margin such that it's now positive instead of negative. And using BCP tied to planning information across an S&OP process that gives you the ability to look at not only forecasting information, manufacturing information, margin information, revenue information, but all of the data working connected within one environment with all the users using spreadsheets for their main operating environment, including the ability to see what's changed over time and by whom, gives you a very powerful S&OP platform. Thank you.